Right now, a lot of businesses want to be quote unquote AI first. They want agents, they want workflows, they want these magical systems that can make the business run by itself. But most businesses are skipping the boring bit, and that's the actual process. They're trying to automate workflows that they haven't properly defined yet. And that's the problem because AI will not fix broken processes. If your process is chaos, AI will just amplify the chaos. If your team already has messy handovers or unclear responsibilities, poor data, and everyone just doing things very differently, adding AI on top of that doesn't magically create order. So before you automate anything, you need to understand the process and not in a vague way. You need to understand it properly. So, what happens, for example, when a lead comes in? Where does it go? What should happen next? What classifies as a good lead and what classifies as a bad lead? What systems get updated and how do these systems get updated? Because most businesses can't answer those simple questions clearly. They think that they have a process, but really what they have is a collection of habits. Someone remembers to follow up, someone updates something in the CRM because they have the time to, someone decides themselves if a lead is good or if a lead is bad, and they chase up leads and prospects whenever they remember or whenever they get the chance to. And because it kind of works, the business just keeps running. But at the end of the day, that's not a real process. It's just people holding everything together manually based off intuition. And this is where businesses get AI wrong. They look at that mess and say, can we automate this? And a lot of the time, technically, yes, you probably can. But should you automate it? Probably not. Because if the process is bad, the automation would just repeat that bad process at scale. And that's why the first step isn't automation. The first step is mapping out the process because you need to slow down before you speed up. Map out what's actually happening now and then map out what should happen next. Then decide where AI or workflow automations should sit inside that process. So, a simple example is, let's say a business wants an AI call agent to follow up with new leads that come in. And on the surface, it sounds simple. A lead comes in, AI calls them, AI qualifies them, AI books appointment, and done. But there's a lot of factors that get overlooked here. So, for example, what determines a qualified lead? When should the call happen? What is the agent allowed to say and what's it not allowed to say? What information needs to be collected on that call? Where does that information need to go afterwards? So, this lack of clarity can then result in inconsistent outputs. So, AI acts as that execution layer, but the value comes from designing the process properly. And this is why I think it's very important that to say that AI isn't the strategy. AI is the tool that helps execute the strategy. The process is the strategy. The same applies across the business, whether that's customer support, sales follow-ups, operations, fulfillment, marketing. If the steps are unclear, the AI has nothing solid to follow. It'll either guess, it'll make mistakes, or you constantly need human correction. But if the process and the context is clear, AI becomes much more powerful. And not because it's some magic tool, but because it's operating inside a proper system. And that's why you need context and clarity. And this is the part that a lot of people miss. Good automation isn't just connecting tools together, it's deciding how work should move through the business and what should happen, when it should happen, who should be involved, what are the rules that we set out, and what the exceptions are, and what the output should look like. When you get that right, then you use AI to make that happen consistently. And that's why before building anything, we always want to understand the business process properly. So, not just the software and the tools that are being used, but the actual work itself. So, how does the business operate? Where are the bottlenecks? Where are people wasting their time? Where are leads being lost? Where are customers waiting too long? Where does information get stuck? And once you understand that, the automation part becomes a lot more obvious. You stop saying, what AI tool should we use? And you start saying, what part of this process can we automate next? And to add to that, not everything should be automated. Some parts should be automated fully. Some parts should be assisted by AI. Some parts should stay completely human. and some parts should be removed completely because they shouldn't be there in the first place. Which leads to another point that, again, a lot of people tend to miss. Sometimes the best option is just deleting a step. Remove the waste, cut the unnecessary, eliminate, then automate, then delegate in that order. And the businesses getting the most out of AI aren't necessarily the ones that are using the most fancy tools. They're the ones that understand their process best, because once the process is clear, AI can be leveraged more effectively. So if you're thinking about using AI in your business, don't start with what tools should we buy, but rather start with what process are we trying to improve? And then ask what's broken, what should the ideal version look like, what parts require human judgment, and what parts are repetitive, what data and context does the AI need? Because once you answer those questions, building out AI systems within your business becomes far easier and far more effective. I've actually put together the exact framework that we use to map out a process before automating anything. So you can find the broken parts and know exactly what to fix. It's completely free. The link is below, so you can go grab it for more information.